Всем привет! So I hope you're enjoying working with the videos in this marathon of tutorials that all are aimed at teaching you the concept of the Russian cases and declensions, and I hope they are useful. So today we'll continue working with the worksheets for specific cases, and today we're working with the worksheet with the dative case forms. Now you know the drill, you're supposed to work with this worksheet ahead of time, but as I always say, it's gonna be useful either way, I think. Okay, let's start.
If you like it, please click like. If it's useful, drop a line. If you love it, hit subscribe. Like me, подпишись и комментарий напиши.
Okay, so here is the worksheet with the correct responses already that are already in the dative forms. And this task is called «Кому ты обычно звонишь, а кому пишешь сообщение?» Who do you usually call and who do you text? Call as in actually talking on the phone and texting as sending a text message. And just a quick reminder that the first word here, actually in both slides, «кому», that is the dative form of the word кто. Remember, I'm showing you this chart that you already know from my previous videos, and you have access to it in the links in the video description. But remember that the words кто and что, who and what also change in cases. And once again, кому is the dative form because whoever we call or whoever we send a text message to is going to be the indirect object. Here is our context for that, our indirect object, and it's dative. So for the responses, I'm going to use these two lines below that have 3 dots, and it is followed by «Я обычно звоню» or «Я обычно пишу сообщение». So because in Russian we have cases, our word order is more flexible than the English one. Even though in English you also can put whoever you're calling or texting in the front. Mom, I usually call. My brother, I usually send a text message to. Now, it's a very specific way of expressing something, but it's still kind of possible. So in Russian, it's more common because the endings of the words, of the nouns, clearly show us the role of that noun in a sentence. So I can say, маме, я обычно звоню, or я обычно звоню маме, or я обычно маме звоню. So the dative, the indirect object, can be quite flexible where it can be found in the sentence. So here I put it in the front. So I will read them one after another, and I will be giving you grammar notes only if it's like something out of the ordinary. And remember that your task is also to kind of like track the change from the nominative default forms that you can find in the description of this video to these dative forms that you see here on this worksheet. And for that, you should be using my charts that I explained in the previous videos. Okay, let's start. So as I said, instead of these 3 dots, I will be saying words in the bubbles, and I will be alternating between these 2 sentences, who I call and who I text. So just, maybe I'll get mixed up the order. That's okay too. Родителям я обычно звоню. Папе я обычно пишу сообщения. Маме я обычно звоню. So here I want to stop for a second and give you a quick grammar note. So on my chart for nouns, you have these notes right here. And the note number 2 says that masculine nouns that end in a or ya actually will change like the feminine nouns. And that's exactly what we have here because the word papa ends in a, it's still a masculine word. So everything that is connected to papa will be in masculine forms, but the word itself will be changing like feminine. That's why we have pape and mame, the same endings, the same feminine endings, even though papa, pape is the masculine form, mama, mame is the feminine form. Сестре я обычно пишу сообщение. Брату я обычно звоню. Лучшей подруге я обычно пишу сообщение. Друзьям я обычно звоню. So the word друзья, here I'm going to stop for a second too. And that's note number 1 on this chart that reminds you that if a word has an irregular plural, then the changes for plural follow that plural form that's irregular. So if it's soft, then it's going to be soft. If it's hard, then it's going to be hard paradigm. So hard stays hard, soft stays soft. Instead of how we do it with the words that follow the regular pattern. Then we look at the singular, and if it's hard, then it stays hard. And if it's soft, it stays soft, plus the rules that we had. So the word друг, friend, in singular follows the hard paradigm. However, in plural, it has the irregular form друзья. That needs to be remembered, and it also switches from hard to soft paradigm. So all of the endings for друзья will follow the soft paradigm for plural. Okay. Лучшему другу я обычно пишу сообщение. So in this next picture here, we have classmates and the teacher, and both for classmates and the teacher, we have 2 different words, because in Russian, classmates and teachers will have different words, will be different words, depending on whether it's K through 12 or college or university. So the very first word in both of these bubbles is going to be for K through 12 settings, and for college or university, the other 2 words. Okay, so let's take a look. Одноклассникам, so once again, these are classmates at a school, kind of like elementary through high school. Одноклассникам я обычно звоню. Учителю, and that's teacher in the K through 12 setting, учителю я обычно пишу сообщение. Now we're switching to college. Одногруппникам я обычно пишу сообщение. Преподавателю я обычно звоню. And again, I'm just alternating the sentences, who I call and who I text, without really anything connected to reality. So the next one is тренеру я обычно звоню. Нашему семейному доктору я обычно пишу сообщение. Here we have grandma and grandpa. Дедушке я обычно звоню. Бабушке я обычно пишу сообщение. And here again, let me remind you about the note number 2, when words that end in a but are masculine still change like feminine. So дедушка, grandpa, is the word in masculine that has the feminine ending, so that's how it's going to be changing. Okay, here we have the stylist, hairstylist, and here we have 2 words that are synonymous. So stylist or parikmacher, and I'm saying these words right now in the nominative default case, means the stylist. And parikmacher is the word that I would say is a very standard word and people still use it a lot. But I would say younger people, and in the last, I would say, decade or so, people tend to use stylist more than parikmacher. But again, they mean the same thing. Sometimes stylist does more than just hair, but overall, so both words can be used. Okay, стилисту я обычно звоню. Парикмахеру я обычно пишу сообщение. So then let's switch here. Соседям я обычно звоню. And here the word соседи, neighbors, also like друзья. It's an irregular plural form from сосед. That was the hard paradigm because it ends in the consonant. And changes to соседи in plural, which changes the paradigm from hard to soft. So it will follow the soft paradigm for the changes. That's why we can see here соседям, соседям. So here we have boss and colleagues. And I want to say that the word colleagues, colleague or colleagues in Russian can refer to either gender. Okay, let's start with the boss. Начальнику я обычно звоню. Коллегам я обычно пишу сообщения. So, and here we have the romantic couple, so boyfriend and girlfriend. And you will notice when I start reading the forms that I actually have the word my right there, like my girlfriend, my boyfriend. And before, I was saying Russians don't use the my as much as Americans when they're saying something about their family members or close friends. It's kind of like implied that if you're saying mom or brother or uncle, that you're talking about your own, so you don't really need to emphasize it with my brother, my mom, or my uncle. However, when we talk about boyfriend and girlfriend, the situation is a little bit different because in Russian, we don't have a word specifically for a boyfriend or girlfriend. We use other words that also exist and have other meanings. So girlfriend is the same word that's used for just a young woman. And the boyfriend is the word that is used for just a young man. So when we're talking about it in context of boyfriend, girlfriend, Russians actually often do add my young woman, my young man to mean, to emphasize that it's boyfriend, girlfriend. Okay, so моей девушке я обычно звоню. Моему молодому человеку я обычно пишу сообщение. Okay, let me go over all of them one more time. And this time I'm not going to be reading the whole sentence, I'm just going to be reading the dative forms. Родителям, папе, маме, сестре, брату, лучшей подруге, друзьям, лучшему другу, одноклассникам, одногруппникам, учителю, преподавателю, тренеру, стилисту, парикмахеру, нашему семейному доктору, дедушке, бабушке, соседям, коллегам, начальнику, моей девушке, and the last one, моему молодому человеку. Okay, we are done with this worksheet, and the first thing I'm gonna do is to remind you that for the task, you need to try and track the forms that you have in nominative in the description to this video to these forms using my chart. And if you run into any problems, put it in the comments. But if you have some successes, put it in the comments too. Okay, and now let me show you our next task that's gonna be a little bit different. So here is our next worksheet, and here we're going to be practicing the preposition v with both locations and destinations. That's what we have on our chart here. Because remember, the prepositions v and na are used with both accusative and prepositional, depending on whether it's destination and location. So here we have two questions. First one is где ты вчера был or была? Где ты вчера был or была? And the second one is куда ты вчера ходил or ходила? And the first question means where were you yesterday? And the second question means where did you go yesterday? Which kind of mean the same thing. Where were you? Where did you go yesterday? And in English, it's easy. You just change the preposition. Where were you? Oh, I was at the library yesterday. Where did you go to? Oh, I went to the library yesterday. Well, in Russian, the preposition doesn't change. It's still going to be v, because we're going inside that place. And what changes is the form of the word library. For the answer to the question где ты была, so for these all lines here, you will be using the prepositional forms. While here, for where did you go to, you will be using the accusative forms. And here you can see, oh, maybe you don't because of my thing, but here you can see в театре, в библиотеку, в зоопарк, and so on. So you have to look at these forms and decide if it's prepositional or accusative and where it will go. And then you have to basically find the matching picture. The matching picture. And that's what we're going to check in our next video. All right, I hope it was useful. Keep learning Russian. Пока-пока.